Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar to discuss the results of our evaluation of the impacts of the Artist Employment Program. As you're coming in, I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Maria Figueroa, the Director of Labor Policy at the SUNY Rockefeller Institute of Government, and I'll be your moderator for today's program. Thank you again for taking the time to join us. I would like to leave a few minutes, maybe one more minute for more attendees to join. All right, well, thank you again. Welcome to our webinar where we will proudly present the results of the research we conducted in a partnership with Creatives Rebuild New York and with the Rockefeller Institute of Government, of course, and my colleagues, independent researchers, Sol Aramendi and Ryan Westphal. I have to thank everyone in this effort, particularly Creatives Rebuild New York, for their partnership and their trust and commission this research to us, which was a truly participatory effort from the get-go, since the design, the implementation of the evaluation, and today we have the opportunity to discuss the results of the evaluation in a collective manner with all of you. So we're very happy to have you here today. As you all know, the Artist Employment Program was implemented to support artists in challenging economic times and to foster stronger connections among artists, arts organizations, and communities across New York State. I like to highlight that this program, the Artist Employment Program, it has historical precedence in the Works Progress Administration of the 1930s and the CETA program of the 1970s, which provided steady and which also provided employment opportunities and training for the workforce in general. Now, this program, the AEP, Artist Employment Program, focus on a particularly vulnerable sector of our economy, which is the workforce of the arts and culture sector, and especially the nonprofit sector, which we know it plays a key role in revitalizing the economies or the declining economies of our state, including both downstate and upstate. And unfortunately, because this workforce experiences unstable employment and income, they are often priced out of the economies that they help revitalize. So this industry, the arts and entertainment industry and the arts and culture in particular, contributes enormously to the economy of our state. Data from the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis indicates that this industry, the for-profit and non-profit sector of arts and culture, generates 151 billion for our economy and supports 461,000 jobs in our state. So this is a key industry, and we're here today to discuss our evaluation of this important program that supported this workforce in this sector. And we look forward to hearing your feedback and your ideas for replicating, supporting this type of programs in the future. And I like to commend Creatives Rebuild New York for their work in implementing this program. And I like to thank them again for their partnership in the research that evaluated its outcomes. Special thanks to CRNY's Executive Director, Sarah Calderon, and Jamie Han, Bella Disey, and Chris Muley. And of course, very special thanks to all the Artist Employment Program participants who contributed to the evaluation through their participation in the surveys and interview processes. I also like to thank you all attendees today for joining us in this important conversation. And now I'd like to introduce Assemblymember Harry Bronson, who will offer opening remarks for this event. Assemblymember Bronson represents the 138th district, including neighborhoods in the city of Rochester, the town of Henrietta, and the rural villages of Churchville and Reagan. Assemblymember Bronson currently serves as chair of the Assembly Labor Committee and previously served as chair of the Assembly Committee for Economic Development, Job Creation, Commerce, and Industry. Thank you, Assemblymember, for joining us today.
Thank you, Maria. Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for having me join you today on this important topic. Today, we are convening to understand the findings of the report that was worked on with SUNY Rockefeller Institute, as well as evaluating the Artist Employment Program of Creatives Rebuild New York. This program, as I understand it, was put together to mitigate the negative impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on artists and arts organizations in our state, and to foster systems and policies that would help address the structural challenges that the arts and culture sector face. The importance of art cannot be understated. And alongside this, we must consider the importance of artists by respecting their work as bringing benefit to entire communities, uplifting our neighborhoods, defining our culture, and helping people understand the world. I think of art as more than just a noun. Try thinking of art as a verb. Art is about more than just the thing one creates. It's about more than the painting hanging on the gallery wall. It's about more than the poem on the page. Art is not only what the artist made, but how the artist made it. Art is a process, an action, a verb. Art is communication. Art is activism. Art is awakening. Art is transformative for our communities. Art compels us to act and react. Art of all kinds serves to encompass a moment or experience that calls on us to do, to feel, and to respond. When we engage with art, we are engaging with the world around us, whether we recognize this or not. As artists, you give us this opportunity, and your work needs to be valued as such. In today's AEP panel, we are looking at artists as workers and celebrating the value of art in many ways, including advancing and advocating for equality and equity in our society. Art functions as a galvanizing force in our community. It is about taking chances, creativity as a voice, oftentimes for the marginalized, the silenced and ignored, exploring new ideas and connecting through them. challenging us to see anew. As a member of the LGBTQ plus community, I have experienced the ways art tells our stories and helps spur momentum to fight back against oppression, exclusion, and injustice. The Memorial Art Gallery, the MAG, is in my district in Rochester, and I've personally experienced how the MAG uses art as a way to open people's eyes. I worked with the MAG in promoting and wrote a narrative on their exhibit called Up Against the Wall, Art, Activism, and the AIDS Posters. That exhibit was a visceral representation of art as activism in the AIDS movement. It demonstrated how, as a society, we communicate the need for change and gives a voice to the statements many of us cannot express, all through art. All of this is to say, art in all its forms deserves to be treated as valuable contributions to the betterment of our state. And the artists who create the art need to be recognized for their work and need to be compensated appropriately for their work. But there exists a disconnect from the works we see as invaluable and the work an artist does to create them, which unfortunately has been viewed as less deserving of value and protection sometimes in our economy. In Rochester, which Maria mentioned, I represent, our city was founded and rose to prominence in part due to art. The founder of Kodak, George Eastman, has a complex and some would say problematic legacy, but he understood that making and creating art not only had the power to shape communities, but launch an entire economy. His work to make film accessible helped establish America as the motion picture capital of the world and define New York as an epicenter of photography. So much so, in 1992, when I and my husband were visiting Italy, and we were sitting at a table at one of those wonderful sidewalk cafes in Italy, we struck up a conversation with a gentleman at the table next to ours. He was from Russia. And when we told him we were from Rochester, his response, home of Kodak. Turned out he was an artist, a photographer, and was in Italy to put together a photo exhibition. It is no surprise that as I looked through the list of AEP artists, 13 of them were from Rochester, including Ruben Ornelas. Sorry about that. I can't pronounce your name, which is really bad because Ruben lives in my district. But nonetheless, the list of artists includes Ruben and also Sarah Rutherford, who partnered with Willow Domestic Violence Center, located down the street from my office, and whom I have worked with before. That neighborhood, by the way, is called the Neighborhood of the Arts. The Memorial Art Gallery I mentioned earlier is also in this neighborhood. Art and the work of artists, because of its benefit to New Yorkers and New York, is very important to me. Last year, I began working with Rochester Mayor Malik Evans to secure funding for community art as an anti-violence measure, as a community building measure. We have also been investing in the renovation of the Rochester Broadway Theater League, restoring a stunning historic building and funding programs that introduce children in the theater arts. Rochester is a city powered by art. And if I may shamelessly put in a plug for a budget item, we have, over the last 2 years, invested in a program called Alive Downtown. And this is funding for our theaters, most of them nonprofits, all but one actually, nonprofit organizations, investing in them so that they can continue to be the community builders and an asset through their work in the economy for our community. So I ask you to be very supportive of those. As chair of the Assembly Labor Committee, I'm committed to developing policies that will improve work conditions for all workers in the economy, including artists. And highlighting artists as workers was one of the main contributions of the Artist Employment Program. Previously, as was mentioned, I served as chair of the Assembly Economic Development Committee, in which I prioritized increase in equity in our workforce and ensuring our investments in economic development are complemented by investments in workforce development. Programs that invest in the creative process and view artists as workers, deserving of the training, investments, and resources we put into other industries, will have meaningful, measurable impact on our economy, particularly at the local levels. And I believe that the more art is accessible and the more ways we merge art with other facets of our economy, the more ways people and communities will benefit from it. If I may, I'd like to talk about another way investing in artists is necessary. Last summer, I was part of an arts and healing panel at the Lincoln Center in New York City, hosted by the United Nations and the World Health Organization's Jameel Arts and Health Lab. This global initiative serves to measurably improve health and well-being through the arts. With a focus on overlooked and underserved communities, the lab leverages scientific evidence, artist-led advocacy, and capacity building to drive the integration of arts into mainstream healthcare. I was there to advocate for two bills I carry in the Assembly that, if passed, would mean licensed creative arts therapy is covered and reimbursable under Medicaid and commercial insurance plans. Joining me on the panel were an esteemed group of people who have dedicated their professional lives to working in the arts, including the legendary American New Yorker soprano Renee Fleming. Clearly, I was out of my league with Renee being there. There were also doctors, researchers, and leaders who were there to educate and advocate for the power and importance of art, both as an economic driver and a means to heal and remedy structural challenges in our society. The discussion highlighted the importance of artists and the arts in healthcare of all types, both medical and mental health care. My bills promote the importance of the work of licensed creative art therapists who use art, music, dance, etc., to offer psychotherapy. And to be licensed, they all must have a minimum of a master's degree in psychotherapy. Using art as a modality to offer psychotherapy is especially important for folks who are nonverbal. Nonverbal maybe because they have suffered a stroke and can no longer talk. Maybe because they have an intellectual disability. Or maybe simply because the trauma that they underwent is too great to express verbally, but can be expressed through the arts. These folks who are nonverbal can only get psychotherapy through art therapy. And that's why I'm pushing to make it accessible so that folks who have commercial insurance coverage and folks who have Medicaid will have access to that modality of psychotherapy. In New York, the arts and culture sector has played a key and continued role in revitalizing declining local economies across the state, both upstate and downstate, through direct impact. This is the power of art in action. So in terms of dollars and cents, art makes sense. But unfortunately, artists are often priced out of communities they helped revitalize. This is also highlighted in the research AEP will discuss today and calls for policies that would improve the labor standards of artists. The Artist Employment Program pilot formed to remedy some of the economic stressors, preventing artists from continuing to thrive in the communities where they live and work, which has been a constant battle. And we need to institute policies to address this issue. Around the time Governor Cuomo launched the Creatives Rebuild New York initiative to combat the negative impacts of the pandemic, I started working to pass a bill called Freelance Isn't Free. The pandemic launched a plethora of new freelance or gig economy workers who bring significant impact to our economy. Many artists are also freelance workers. They pay taxes and participate in our economy at all levels, yet historically have had little recourse and protections when they are not paid for the work they performed, simply because they're not considered employees in the traditional or legal sense. They did not have the protection needed. Freelance Isn't Free garnered a significant amount of support from the arts communities, writers, photographers, graphic designers, musicians, and many others who were instrumental in raising the alarm to me about the need to address glaring inequities facing freelance workers. When this legislation was signed into law by Governor Hochul in 2024, New York became one of the first states in the country to provide freelance workers, including artists, with mandatory written contracts, a minimum 30-day payment terms, and protection against retaliation and non-payment by providing legal protections and recourse for freelance workers. This landmark legislation ensures that independent workers, including artists, receive the compensation they deserve for their labor and their work. As labor chair, my hope is that we can work together to once again create an economy that classifies art as an accessible, middle-class career deserving of family-sustaining wages, seen as equal in value to many other community investments. For this to happen, we must commit to supporting and funding programs like AEP that encourage communities to foster the development as arts programs associated with career tracks, and similarly, invest in art as integral to our cultural landscape as parks and restaurants. All of these connections serve to illustrate how those who make and work in the arts are not only everywhere, but how they provide opportunities, power our economy, and are deserving of respect as career professionals. I look forward to continuing to work together with SUNY Rockefeller and other arts leaders to examine policies that will bring increased labor protections and work opportunities to artists as workers. Thank you again for the opportunity to participate in your event today. I wish you a very productive discussion of the report findings and the new ideas for future programs and policies to support artists and their organizations in our state. Be sure to send those ideas my way so I can be helpful. Thank you so much.